Hello and welcome to Sunrise Cardcast, your one-stop podcast shop for all things hockey cards. My name is Eric Andrews, also known in the hobby as Hammerhawks, and I'm joined by my co-host and fellow hobbyist Aaron Goldstein, better known as Crease Collector. Hello, sir.
Episode 4. Let's do this.
Let's do it. Get her done. So just like last episode, we just wanted to start off with an update on that Connor McDavid 2015-16, the Cup RPA jersey numbered 97 out of 99 that was recently up for auction and just sold on Friday night.
Yeah, so for those who haven't heard, the Connor McDavid Cup RPA jersey numbered 97 out of 99 just sold. It sold for $113,176 US, and that comes out to 154,000 Canadian with a total of 18 bids. The final price does not include the buyer's premium, which is 20%. And so the final price that the buyer actually had to pay was over 135,000 US, which comes out to a grand total of over 184, almost 185,000 Canadian. For those Canadians like myself watching, that is a lot of coin. For those who predicted the final price, we did have Josh Packham, who did predict the final sale price of 113. So Josh, way to go on that one. Definitely a lot of money thrown around for this McDavid. Ironically, another massive card within the hobby that was just listed as well for auction was the Sidney Crosby 0506 Cup RPA out of 99, and it's graded BGS 10 pristine. It's being auctioned by PWCC. It's one of only two 0506 the Cup base rookie cards that has graded a BGS 10, and the other one was Andre Kostitsyn, and that was again the RPA. So the centering surface and the edges have all been assigned a subgrade of 10, and the corners are a 9.5, and the autograph is a 10. It's a beautiful autograph. It's a one color patch, but honestly for me, I prefer the one color here because it's a glacier twill, which is, for those who haven't noticed, the Penguins and the Avalanche do use that certain pattern you see if you zoom in on the patch. It's very very cool to look at, and the one color also again for me just kind of it guarantees the authenticity, because unfortunately with patch faking scandals and things like that, you don't really know what you're getting with some of these patches out there, especially these high-end cards with the Crosbys, Ovechkins out there. So to have a one color is very assuring. It definitely assures the authenticity of a big card like that. And for the money that's being thrown around, it's definitely a good sign for those who are interested in the card. And it is a game use patch as well. The current bid, with a whopping 41 bidders, it's currently at just about 56,000 US, which comes out to 76,000 Canadian. And it's ending June 25th. So definitely about 5 days left in that. So definitely a lot of time for that to raise in price. I've definitely seen a lot of predictions for that so far. I think the highest one I've seen has been about like 300,000 of just predictions. So we'll see if it actually makes it that high. And a fun fact, our Karin Rai, for those who don't know, he actually knows the card owner for this card, and he's actually a big time Pokemon collector, and this Crosby card is just the only hockey card that he actually owns. So it's quite amazing to see such a high-end card not owned by a predominant hockey card collector. It's a guy who just collects Pokemon and just happens to own this incredible card. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where this one ends up, just like the McDavid. So we'll definitely keep you updated on that.
Yeah, very interesting. And I've even seen discussion online about, which of the Crosby or McDavid cards are more desirable, which is more valuable, things like that. And there's been a lot of good arguments for both. I think a lot of people, generally speaking, right now would say that the Crosby is the better card just because he, is much farther along in his career. So he, just has established himself better, and it's probably a safer card, I would say, whereas the McDavid is still more so speculative and more of an investment. But yeah, needless to say, they're both unbelievable cards, and it'll be really interesting to see how the Crosby sale price compares to that McDavid that went yesterday.
Definitely. I find it hilarious that it's owned by a Pokemon card collector. I mean,
Yeah,
that is awesome. Like, I
yeah,
know there's a lot of Pokemon collectors out there, and this is definitely isn't a Pokemon card podcast, but yeah, those Pokemon cards can go for big money.
oh
So
yeah.
it's not surprising that those card collectors there um, definitely look for some investment pieces like this. So very cool.
So speaking of some new cards on the market, even though the Crosby's obviously been out for a while, there was a new product that came out this week on Wednesday, June 17th, 2019-20. Upper Deck Ice was released. And it's interesting this year. There's been a lot of changes, even though a lot of things obviously still feel consistent with the brand. Everything down to even the pack, box, and case configuration has changed. So now for this year, it's 5 packs per box with 5 cards per pack. And within a box, you're still going to get 1 autograph card. You'll get 2 Ice Premier's rookie cards. You'll get 1 Relic or Exquisite insert card and 1 Sub-Zero insert card. Though a lot of the boxes that I've seen so far actually do have 3 hits, which is nice. But yeah, you're only theoretically guaranteed 2. And then, of course, as far as price, it depends where you look. But generally speaking, a box is going to cost around 100 US or maybe 125 Canadian, somewhere in there. As far as returning staple content, obviously, Ice is known for the Ice Premier's rookie cards and the various versions of those, like the Ice Premier's autograph cards and the Ice Premier's autograph patch cards numbered out of 10, as well as some interesting autograph content such as the Glacial Graphs autograph cards, the Superb Script autograph cards, and the Signature Swatches autograph memorabilia cards. As far as unique returning content, for the second year in a row, there are green, red, and black base parallel cards, as well as Sub-Zero autograph cards. And like I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of new and different things with Ice this year. So starting off, just looking at some of the subtractions, there are no longer the clear-cut champions inserts. There are no longer rinkside signings autograph cards, which have been around for a while. So it's interesting that those are gone now, as well as the Frozen Foursomes quad memorabilia cards. Those have been around for quite some time in Ice, and those are now gone. As far as new content, there are 2 new base parallels in the orange and ice cube versions. And there's a lot of different autograph content this year, highlighted by the Under Glass autograph cards, which also come with a red parallel numbered out of 5. And those are based on the 2003-04 Under Glass autograph cards from Ice that were very desirable and highly sought after cards from that release. And another brand new insert this year are the Fire and Ice autograph cards, which are just stunning cards. They look
Mhm.
unbelievable. And as the name would suggest, there are fire versions with a red color scheme and a red autograph, and there are ice versions with a blue color scheme and a blue autograph. And the checklist is the same among both of those subsets, but they really do look extremely nice. I was very impressed when I saw them. So I know that those have been really well received and people are really liking them. And they're pretty scarce as well. You know, I don't know that I've actually seen one pulled myself. I've seen pictures of them and I've seen them on eBay and things like that, but I don't think I've actually seen one pulled yet. Another new thing is the Ice Buckets autograph cards, which are really interesting. They feature a cutout hockey helmet illustration that includes the team logo as well as the player's number, and then their signed on card as well. As far as some changes this year with Upper Deck Ice, just a minor little tweak with the Superb Script autograph cards. They have a vertical orientation this year, whereas they've been horizontal ever since they were brought into Upper Deck Ice, I believe in 2015-16. And as well, the Sub-Zero inserts now use a patterned rainbow foil board this year instead of acetate. And even though some people might think that's a little bit of a downgrade as far as the quality, they still look incredible. Upper Deck did a really nice job with those this year. So it was good that they were still able to produce a really quality looking card, even though they changed back to cardboard instead of just acetate. And then one last thing, I mentioned the configuration changes, but that's not the only change with the box, as the box shape and size itself has actually changed. It's almost more of a blaster type of box now instead of a typical hobby box like you would think of. So that's just a minor little change. It doesn't really affect anything, but it's just something interesting to note, is it does look a little bit different. So then just going into a little bit of analysis just on our end before Billy joins us, I really think that the configuration change is a big plus. It's kind of a feel of just cutting to the chase, and not having any extra unnecessary content. It's delivering the hits right away. And pretty much every pack is almost having 2 non-base cards in it, which is great. As far as the design, I think there's a really apparent fresh and icy look throughout the product, as the name would suggest. There's a really heavy emphasis on a light blue color scheme throughout, which I think just really fits the feel of the product. I think it looks really nice this year across the board. The base cards and the base parallels really pop nicely with rainbow foil. I think every single parallel that I've seen just looks really nice, and they're all pretty unique as well. Especially as you're getting into the scarcer levels, they have a different pattern in the background as well, which helps differentiate them and just gives them a really interesting look. Like I mentioned, the under glass cards are back. I think that's a big plus after making a long awaited return. And as well, the Fire and Ice autograph cards are just fantastic looking cards. I would honestly consider taking a run at that set just because they look that nice. Like, they're really, really solid. And I mentioned the ice bucket cards earlier. I think that's kind of a little bit of a pro and con. I love the innovation of them, and I think it's cool to see just something very different. Some people might find them a little bit cheesy or might not like them just because they're different, but I think it's always good to see new things being tried. It never hurts. And I would say generally, I really like the product. I think it's a big upgrade from previous years of ice. There are a few minor things I would maybe change. I know people have been a little bit leery on the Ice Premier's rookie cards, that the player name and team are actually in white font, which just kind of makes it a little bit more difficult to read. I think, if it was a black font or just any color, dark blue, if they did gold foil, whatever it might be, it would have been a little bit easier to read, but they still look really nice. Another change are the signature swatches are now signed on the jersey piece itself, which, definitely there's some pros with that, but a minor con is that sometimes the autographs are not quite as clean. But I mean, that's going to happen if you're signing on fabric instead of on cardboard or acetate. It's just how it goes. And then, like I mentioned earlier, there's been mixed reviews so far about the Sub-Zero cards not being on acetate anymore. But again, like I said, they look incredible. I think Upper Deck did a really nice job on them.
Yeah, for ice, I think definitely for Upper Deck, it was a huge step up from in years past. Just from talking to other collectors and people who break a lot of product, and even just our own personal opinions about it, it definitely looks like a big step up, like both in the value department, but also in terms of like just how the product was built and just the subsets as well. They really put a lot of thought and time into it, and yeah, definitely a really good step up. Right from the get-go was something I noticed.
Of course, that's our insight, but we wanted to share with you guys as well a little bit from the source. So joining us now is Billy Celio from Upper Deck, who is a product manager in their hockey line, and specifically one of the products that he's responsible for is Upper Deck Ice. Billy, obviously Upper Deck Ice has been around for a while and has an established legacy at this point, but maybe keeping that in mind, what was your mindset and some goals for creating the product this year?
Yeah, I was really excited about Ice this year, knowing that we were going to have a pretty strong rookie class, especially with the holdovers that we already knew we were getting. I really just wanted to build something that people would get a lot of value out of. One of the knocks on Ice over the past few years is just they felt that they weren't getting the full value out of a box price. And we'll get into more details, but there's a lot of different costs when you're dealing with acetate and autographs and memorabilia and stuff like that. So one of the main goals this year was to get as much value out of a box of ice, out of an inner of ice, out of a case of ice that we could, compared to previous years. So that was really the main focus point on when I started building this set.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you guys did a really good job of that. Aaron and I were just talking off air a little while ago about how we feel that the value this year in ice is substantially better.
I think a lot of that has to do with just the card market in general right now. That being said, we built a lot of nice cards in this, and Ice is very a rookie-driven product, and so we were able to add some high-quality hits with rookie content. And I think you saw some of that in SPA this year, where Tony did a great job building that set and creating a number of different hits using different sign of the time designs that people can kind of remember from their past. And we kind of do that with Ice too, with the Exquisite cards, where we bring back some legendary designs for Exquisite that people recognize, and we put that into Ice.
Awesome. Well, the configuration that you're just talking about of the product of Ice has changed quite a bit, both within the boxes and the cases themselves. What kind of prompted those changes within Ice this year?
We listen to our consumers, we listen to our shops, and there were a few things that people were talking about. They still want all the hits, but as I said, to get all those hits, it costs money to print those cards. Especially right now, PETG is very expensive. So we kind of had to think, how can we still get the hits to the people and it still costs out? Well, one of the ways to do that is through packaging, to kind of cut back a little bit on packaging. As you saw, there's only 5 packs. That saves us money on packaging right there. And then also the smaller boxes that we use this year. But another big component, and something that's new to Ice this year, is we have 3 inners. And I don't think we've really done any products that have 3 inners. And one of the reasons for that is, we've talked to shops and we've talked to breakers, and there's certain prices and price points that are successful in selling inners or cases or whatnot. With the breakers, you hear a lot of times that the magic number, now this could be US or Canadian dollars, but the magic number is somewhere between $20 and $40 where people feel comfortable, spending per team. It might vary depending on what team you have, or if they just do a random, draw, somewhere between $20 and $40 per team. So that's one of the things we actually think about when we're creating an inner or creating a case is, how much is this going to cost to break? How much is this going to cost when someone goes into a shop? They don't want to spend all the time $4,000 or $5,000 on, a full case of Ice, but you put an inner together that has 8 boxes, now you're spending maybe, $700 to $1,000 on an 8-box inner of Ice. That seems a little more plausible for the consumer to come in and feel like they want to buy some Ice. So, those are some of the things that we actually think about and we get feedback from. There was a lot of talk before we even put 3 inners into Ice. And another thing just to mention, people always think we build sets or we build the products by the master case. We actually, when we have inners in a case, we build the product by the inner. So you'll have an inner hit. There's no like, oh, I got the Cale Makar autograph in the first inner, so there's no chance of me getting another big hit in the rest of the master case. That's farther from the truth. I've already seen some breaks where people have gotten a Cale Makar autograph in all 3 inners. So, it's possible because we build it by the inner. I know there's a urban legend that, there's a master case hit, but I can tell you right now, for the guy that builds the sets, it's built by the inner, and we create the case hits by the inner.
Yeah, that's really good stuff and really interesting. Following up a little bit more on some new stuff with Upper Deck Ice this year, one thing that immediately stood out to me when looking at some of the previews were the under glass autograph cards, especially since those are really highly sought after cards in the 0304 Ice release. Maybe just tell us a little bit about those and why they finally made a long awaited comeback.
again, it's one of those things. We're not very active on the boards. We don't like to talk a lot. Occasionally, you might get a private message from me if I know who you are, and there's a question that comes up on a board as a hobby insider or a sports card forum or blowout. I'm constantly on there. I'm checking it every day. And that was one of those inserts where I was looking for something different. I don't know if you noticed or not, but there's some inserts that are missing from previous years. You don't have the Frozen Four, jersey and patches and stuff like that. There's other memorabilia cards that are missing, and I think you're getting old ringside signings, but we took them out of this year's ice. And it was one of those that someone actually on the board said, what insert I really liked were those under glass inserts. And so I went and, I remembered them, took a look at them, and, said, hey, maybe we can do our own little spin on these and create something new with this. Ice is synonymous with acetate. So this is a perfect opportunity to be able to make this insert again, since there's obviously some sort of demand, and they were gorgeous looking cards back in the day for sure.
Awesome. With the other new components within ICE this year, like if you can just briefly just walk us through some of the other features of the product and what went into these new additions.
Well, one of the things I mentioned earlier is just increasing the value of a box, and there's many different ways of doing that. And in the past, ice was just kind of like the base cards, even though they were nice and they were acetate. They just a lot of times I'd be at the expo and people would just open up a box of ice, give us the base cards to give to kids, and walk away with the hits. And so we kind of wanted to add a little bit of value to the base cards, but we didn't want to make them just regular plain C2S. And one thing that I noticed as a company, we didn't really have any products out there that had rainbow foil for the base set cards. So that was one of the things that I looked into. And then we did that last year. So this year, what I wanted to do was add more parallels to the base set to add more value. Like I was saying, we've got the cards, the base cards numbered out of the reds numbered out of 5. You have the ice cubes that are case hits. So there's set collectors out there, and with the set only being 50 cards, it's kind of a fun little, hey, I can collect the base set. Hey, maybe I'll step it up and collect the green parallel set. Maybe I'll step up and collect the orange and the ice. It gives more value to the box. So that's one of the first things that we did was, we added more parallels to the base set to be able to provide more value to the box. And then, as I said, kind of thinking of some new inserts. I thought some of the inserts, were great, but we'd seen them year after year, and we didn't want ice to go stale. People had already been a little concerned about getting their value, so we decided to add some new and exciting looking cards. And I'll tell you right off the bat, one of the ones I'm most excited about, and I was worried that it wouldn't come out as well as it did, but the Fire and Ice cards are stunning. One of the things that people know about me is I'm a big autograph collector, whether it's sports or entertainment. I like to collect autographs, and you see people using different color paint pens when it comes to getting stuff signed, and some of these paint pens, the color just really pops on them. And we started with those color coded cards in the Cup, and a lot of those came out real nice. And I wanted to find something else that we could utilize those colorful pens, and so we came up with the Fire and Ice cards, and those just came out absolutely gorgeous this year. I was really happy. And then I've collected cards for quite a while, and I remember Upper Deck used to make these cards that had like little helmets in it, and they had it for football. And I was just like, why don't we do something like that for hockey? So, we've got the bucket cards that we printed, and we kind of made a little a puffy helmet there with the player's number and the team logo and everything like that. And that's another kind of cool new addition to ice that's valued out quite well, and people seem to be quite receptive to. And then, as I said, any chance we have to include exquisite, we've had exquisite content, but the more exquisite content that we can add to a product like ice, the better it's going to be. And, we were able to add some of the retro designs in there, and we were able to add, rare parallels of the exquisite cards. And our design team just does an amazing job with those exquisite cards. This year, they're stunning. The light effects, and then the gold parallels, are just as stunning as the regular base cards. And that's kind of a new addition to the product, is just the more parallels that we have to the exquisite cards.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more with you about the Fire and Ice autograph cards. Aaron and I were talking about those a little while ago as
They're
well.
beautiful.
They are absolutely stunning cards. I was even saying, as someone who generally is pretty focused on what I collect, I would absolutely consider taking a shot at putting that set together, just because of how nice they look and how well executed they are. And then another change that a lot of people have talked about, and myself and you have talked about this, Billy, as well, is the Sub-Zero cards changing from an acetate stock to a patterned rainbow foil board this year. Maybe could you just talk a little bit about that, and maybe what the thought process was there?
Yeah, like I said, and I mean, I won't get into the prices too much or anything like that, but the acetate and the cast and cure treatment that we put on the cards, that's what that holographic design that you kind of see on the old Sub-Zero cards, that costs a lot of money. And as I said, we were trying to get the most value out of these boxes as we could. And I would look at the prices, the secondary market for what Sub-Zero cards were going for, and it just didn't fit the justification of necessarily putting those cards on acetate. Although they were stunning, they didn't seem to react as well as we would have hoped in the secondary market. So, not to say that you can talk to Jeremy Lee what he thinks about shiny cards, but we decided to go a different route this year. I still wanted like a lot of pop on the card. I wanted a lot of movement and action, just like the regular Sub-Zeros have. But we just wanted to add some bright color to it also. And as you saw, if you've seen the cards, so the Sub-Zero ice cards, yes, they're not on acetate, but man, they stick out of that pack when you open it. They're bright. We use purple for the color this year, and it really brightens up the pack. And the design on it is really good, and the pattern on the foil board is really good. And I couldn't be happier with the final result of those cards. I was as worried as everyone else was when they heard that the Sub-Zero cards weren't on acetate. But as I said, I think we put something out there that's quite comparable.
Very nice. Yeah, they're definitely, acetate or not, they're beautiful cards. And this might go back to, again, just the price point and trying to get that cost down, or at least have collectors have value. But another change that we noticed was the signature swatches autograph, with the signature actually on the jersey again. What prompted that change with that set?
Part of that is, we decided to they used to sign over the pack or over the jersey, and then on top of the acetate. Well, what we did this year was we made it so that you can actually touch the card, touch the jersey or whatnot, like you can physically touch it, as opposed to it being underneath a sheet of acetate, and then they sign over top of that. So that's kind of the reason why they signed on the patches, was because we kind of switched up the acetate top sheet die cut, so customers could actually feel the memorabilia on the cards.
Makes
And as I
sense.
said, on the patch version, they sign over to the side of the card.
And another thing that stood out to me just watching a few breaks is seemingly a pretty noticeable focus on the Ice Premier rookie cards being more so lower numbered than before. And a lot of times in years past, there's been a lot of players who have been in those higher numbered tiers, so to speak, whereas this year there's a lot more guys in the lower tiers. Maybe just talk a little bit about that and what went into that decision.
So a few years back, we added a few more subjects. I think it used to just be 6 ice premieres numbered to 99, and we increased the number on the 99s a couple years ago, and we kind of stayed with that. Part of it has to do with just how many you're not getting 3 ice premieres I mean, if we have surplus, yes, we'll throw in an extra ice premiere card just because we have it there and we don't want to just be sitting on a whole bunch of cards that aren't going out to the public. But you're only getting 2 ice premieres per box on average. So, some of that just has to do with how many ice premiere cards are out there. And, would you rather have lower, like getting 2 ice premiere cards in a box with lower numbers, or would you want those $14.99 and $19.99 numberings back? Well, we had to make a decision on that, and we felt that the customers would prefer the highest number card to be out of $12.99 as opposed to $14.99 and $19.99, and then just overloading the boxes.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah, definitely some big decisions, which kind of leads me to my next question here. Were there any aspects within ICE that were kind of hotly contested or debated during the development?
We got in arguments all the time. No, I'm just kidding. There were a few things. That I think this is like one of the smallest set sizes. 50's not a large set size, but I felt if we had parallels for a lot of the superstars, those would value out better than having a lot of players, and some of those players just, as I said, a lot of times those base cards are just given away to people. So the size of the base set was one. I'll be honest, the biggest, I wouldn't say argument, but the biggest conversation was about 3 inners in ice.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've got our sales team that needs to be able to sell this to the shops, to the distributors. And, we had to do a lot of talking to shops and a lot of talking to breakers and consumers to kind of say, look, there are people out there that have said that they will buy more cases of ice if it's 3 inners as opposed to 2 inners, because it's just easier for them to sell as a product, as a break, as a in-store purchase, that sort of thing. So it took a lot of convincing because we're so used to two inners with like 10 or 12 boxes per, but that inner price was getting pretty expensive. And as I said, if you can get an inner out to somebody for $700 to $1,000, that's a pretty reasonable price. And when you start getting to $1,200 and $1,500, that's when they have to kind of check with the significant other to make sure they're not going to get in trouble. But
Definitely,
I would say that was probably the biggest issue. Other than that, we were all kind of on board with changing some of the inserts and changing some of the substrates. It was just a matter of how are we going to get this to the consumer.
Very interesting. Yeah. Is there anything else that you would like to mention about Upper Deck Ice?
I get it while you can. That's the best way of putting it.
pretty much.
I was telling everybody, I go, look out. I usually have a good sense on products, and I was telling a lot of people, hey guys, don't sleep on ice this year. I know in previous years it might have struggled. Sometimes that has to do with the rookie class. Sometimes that just has to do with content and stuff that we've gotten back. But I was telling people, don't sleep on it. This is one of those products that enjoy the price while it's at where it's at, because I can see it going up pretty soon. And then one other comment, and I know it's brought up all the time, is why does Upper Deck put this past product stuff into new stuff? And I will say, sometimes it's to help people complete their sets. Another thing is, look at who we're putting in there. we aren't necessarily, these are cards that would just kind of, if we didn't get them, would cost a lot of money in replacements if we were to redeem them. So, we go the route where we don't necessarily redeem as much. If you've noticed, a lot of our products have not had a large number of redemptions. In fact, I think we went one streak where we had like 13 products in a row with no redemptions. We're really focusing on that. And so, we'll get past product stuff in, and, we don't want to just sit on it. Some people need it to complete their sets, and other times it's big names of good players. So, you're seeing some Crosby in there. Do you want to see ice with no Crosby, or are you fine with getting a Crosby auto that might be dated 1819 as opposed to 1920? I think 99 out of 100 people are going to say they don't mind getting a Crosby autograph, even if it's from the previous year in the product. I know it can be frustrating when like your big hit is when your hit is from something from the previous year and you're trying to collect, that year's rookie class or players. But, it's just our way of making sure that a lot of these cards still get out to the public.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good point too. I think I would be in the camp of taking an older Crosby autograph in a new box.
I wouldn't mind Crosby.
Yeah, and that's very true. I was looking at the checklist a little while ago. There are update autographs of Crosby, Lemieux, Patrick Waugh. So I mean, it's definitely some pretty big names that can be had there. I think that'll pretty much do it for us. Thank you so much for sharing all of this information and insight with us, Billy. We really appreciate your time and learning more about the product.
Yeah, guys, thanks again for having me. And as I said, people don't sleep on ice. The product's hot right now, and be on the lookout for the next two products coming out. I believe are Ingrained, which I've already seen a case of that open. And there's a new insert in there where we have cards made completely out of carbon fiber, and they just look ridiculous. That's one thing right there. That's certainly a selling point. And then a new product we have coming out, Stature. Our group in North Carolina who's seen these cards basically have said these are some of the nicest upper deck cards they've ever seen. The price point is very, very favorable. I believe it's about $120 box, and you get a nice thick pack of nice, thick, gorgeous looking cards. It's a new technology that we're using, and I think you guys will be really impressed with those cards also. So be on the lookout for those, and keep grabbing that ice and that SPA as much as you can.
Absolutely. Thanks, Billy.
No problem, guys.
So as far as our opinions go, we kind of talked to you off a lot about that. What do you think about 1920 ice? What do you like or dislike about it? Will you be opening of it like any other product yourselves, or just collecting cards from this product on the secondary market? As far as the Sidney Crosby Cup RPA goes, it's currently on eBay right now with PWCC, and we just want to, like the McDavid, we just want to hear about your predictions as far as what it'll sell for. We'll also be doing a shout out in a future episode to see whose predictions is the closest to that final sale price. And we'll definitely be posting these questions on social media. So definitely keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, so I think that'll pretty much wrap it up for this fourth episode of Center Ice Cardcast. Please be sure to follow us on social media. We can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Center Ice Cardcast, and on Twitter at Center Ice CC. Please also be sure to subscribe to the show on your podcast platform of choice to make sure you never miss a future episode. Until next time on Center Ice Cardcast, keep collecting those hockey cards.